There's a difference between being a good roommate and getting taken advantage of, and I had to draw the line. So, I 25 years old live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, Jake 26. We've been friends since college and split rent, utilities and chores evenly. Our lease is month to month, and we've always had bills get paid, place stays clean, no drama. About 2 months ago, Jake started dating Sarah 24, and she's been spending a lot of time at our place. Like, a lot. She's here 5 to 6 nights a week, uses our kitchen, bathroom, Netflix, you name it. I didn't mind at first because she's nice enough, and I figured it was just the honeymoon phase. Last week, Jake sat me down and said Sarah's lease is ending soon, and he wants her to move in with us. I was caught off guard but asked how we'd handle rent and bills. He said Sarah's between jobs and can't afford to chip in right now, but she'd help out with chores really? I pointed out that we already split chores evenly, and adding a third person means more mess, more utilities, and more strain on our small space. I suggested Sarah pay a third of the rent and utilities once she's employed, but Jake got defensive and said I was being petty and unsupportive. He argued that since she's his girlfriend, it's not like she's a stranger, and I should be cool with it because we're all friends here. Here's my side. I get that Sarah's in a tough spot, and I don't want to seem heartless. I've been unemployed before, and it sucks. But our apartment is tiny shared bathroom, small kitchen, thin walls. Having a third person full-time would change the vibe, and I don't think it's fair for me to subsidize her living here. I pay $800 per month for my half of the rent, plus utilities, and I budget carefully. If Sarah moves in without contributing, I'm essentially covering part of her costs, which doesn't sit right with me. I also feel like Jake's dismissing my concerns by framing it as me being unfriendly rather than practical. Jake sighed, as he explained it. He says Sarah's only temporarily jobless and will make it up later. He thinks I'm overreacting because she's not some random tenant but his girlfriend, and I should trust she won't mooch forever. He also said I'm making a big deal out of nothing since she's already here most of the time anyway. He pointed out that she's cooked dinner for us a couple of times, so she's contributing in her own way. The conversation ended with Jake saying I'm being unreasonable and that I'm making Sarah feel unwelcome. Now things are tense, and Sarah's been avoiding me when she's over. I don't want to ruin my friendship with Jake, but I also don't think I should have to pay for someone else to live here. Comment 1. NTA, he's been dating her for 2 months and now he wants her to live with you guys rent-free. Without even an agreement that she pay 1/3 after she find a job, honestly still too generous, she may just never get another job. Nope. That's bullshit and possibly a violation of your lease to have her move in anyway. Comment 2. They have been together 2 months, she's there 5 to 6 nights a week and she's ready to move in. How long has she been between jobs? How is she paying the lease that's ending with no job? NTA. It sounds like she's looking for someone else to pay her way. If your roommate wants to, that's his choice, but it's not your responsibility to support her. Comment 3. NTA. The problem is though, she's already moved in. Anyone will tell you that if she's staying 5-6 nights a week, it's essentially living there. 1 more nights won't actually change your bills that much. That being said, any flat decisions you'll now be outvoted. When they no longer want a roommate, you'll be the one that needs to move out. Tell him if she stays over more than twice a week you'll consider her as living there and the rent will be divided by 3, whether he pays 2/3s or she pays 1/3, doesn't matter. But you will only by paying 1/3. Short story 2, this is wild. I, 32F, feel stuck between my husband, 34M, and my family, and I don't know if I handled this the right way. My brother, 30s, has always been the golden child in my mom's eyes. He has several kids but barely parents them. My mom, 60s, watches his children constantly while he sleeps, plays video games, or just disappears. Anytime someone brings up how unfair this is, she makes excuses like he's just tired or he's doing his best. He rarely shows up to help, and everyone is expected to tiptoe around it. Recently things got worse. My husband owns his own business and works hard to provide for our family. After a dumb disagreement with my brother actually threatened my husband's business. Like straight up said he'd mess with it. Not even in a joking way. Then, he demanded my husband return the furniture we had bought and given him. This was stuff we purchased to help him when he was going through a tough time. It wasn't a loan. It was a gift. But suddenly he was acting like we owed him something. So yeah, my husband got mad. He made a comment about how my brother doesn't do anything, never helps with his own kids, and how my mom constantly enables him. It was honest. Maybe a little harsh, but not inaccurate. I didn't say anything. I didn't defend my brother because honestly, my husband was right. I felt that way for years but always kept quiet to avoid drama. Later, my mom pulled me aside and told me I should have stood up for my brother. She said I let my husband disrespect family and accused me of changing since I got married. She made me feel like I betrayed them by not taking my brother's side. Now I feel completely torn. My husband is working hard, doing his part, and constantly getting disrespected. But my mom acts like I should cover for my brother no matter what. So, what do you think about this story? Any thoughts please? Comment 1. ESH Accept your husband. The only reason your husband has any association with your family is you. He could otherwise cut your brother and mother out of his life at a moment's notice. You are the reason they are his problem. So it's your responsibility to deal with them, not leave that to him. You should have been proactive in defending your husband, not leaving him to fight for himself. You have kept quiet about your brother's obvious problems, and that silence has only emboldened the situation. The answer to he's doing his best, by the way, is, then that's not good enough, and he needs to do better. Comment 2. How can you possibly be torn? Your brother is a sack of useless items disguised as a human male. Your mom is just as bad, enabling him. You are no peach either. You also enable your useless and horrible brother and have compelled your husband to assist, possibly by using the same guilting tactics your mom is employing on you right now, rather than stepping away from these idiots for the sake of your mental health and the health of your marriage. Change your behavior. NTA for not defending the indefensible. YTA if you let these jackals continue to circle you and your husband. Comment 3. Ask your mother factually, what did your husband get wrong? It is not disrespect if it is the truth. When is your brother going to apologize for your husband's disrespect? Story 3. She is asking a lot of money. Let's start the story. I'm 30 and I recently lost my grandfather. He left me a sizable inheritance, just over $140,000. I was extremely close to him growing up, and he made it clear over the years that he wanted the money to help me start a family, buy a house, or build something of my own. My fiancée, who's 26, and I have been together for 4 years and engaged for 1. A few weeks ago, her father was diagnosed with a heart condition that needs surgery. He doesn't have insurance, and the cost is expected to be between $60–70K. She came to me and asked if I'd be willing to use part of the inheritance to cover it. I told her I was really sorry, but I couldn't. My grandfather worked his whole life for that money, and I don't think he'd be okay with it going to something outside the family like this. I also worry that spending half of it means risking the plans we already made, like buying a home and starting a business I've been preparing for. She was crushed and said she didn't expect me to say no. She told me I put a dead man's wishes over a living person's life. That really hurt. I said it wasn't that simple. This was money meant to give us a future, not fix an emergency we had no control over. Her mom called me selfish. Some of our mutual friends said they could understand both sides, but that if I really loved her, I'd help save her father. Now she's barely speaking to me, and I feel awful. I never wanted to choose between money and someone's health. But I also feel like it's unfair to be pressured into spending something that wasn't meant for that. So, are you in this with boyfriend or girlfriend? Comment 1. NTA. I can understand contributing to the family's efforts to pay for the surgery, but not pay the whole thing. It's wild that they've even asked you. He's not your wife, not your child, and in the grand scheme of things 140k is not that much money depending on where you live. Comment 2. This is a huge ask of anyone? I feel for her father, but come on. He can file indigent and get a huge chunk of his bill written off by the hospital. He should on Medicare or Medicaid. If living in the US, what would her father have done if you hadn't inherited the money? I could never dream of asking someone for that amount of money, no matter what it was for. Comment 3. NTA. It's your money and she must respect it. She has the privilege to ask, but she can't expect you to agree. If she truly loved you, she would not ask and waited for you to offer. She has no right to be upset. He is not your father. Her mom's reaction is just ducking incredible. She has no right to even consider you for borrowing. Calling you selfish is outright wrong. I say run. They showed their true colors. It's your money they are after, not you. Story 4. I grew up Orthodox Jewish, but it wasn't the lifestyle for me and I left while remaining very culturally Jewish. My husband is Jewish and I raised our children to be very in touch with their cultural identity, sent them to Jewish schools and sleepaway camps, but don't really practice the religion in terms of keeping the Sabbath, following the dietary laws, etc. Our son is 19 and has, over the past 2 years, become pretty religious. He spends the Sabbath with friends, which is fine with us. We have tried to compromise on the dietary laws by purchasing kosher meat/poultry for him, not mixing meat and dairy, etc. We live in an area with a large Jewish community and he has carte blanche to use Apple Pay to buy himself whatever food he wants. Because I grew up in the community, I know the rules and do the best I can for him while not limiting myself to a culture that I chose to leave. I recently found out from one of my other kids that he is annoyed that we haven't converted one of our ovens, we have 2, into a kosher oven for his use, or purchased separate dishes for him, etc. Sibling was like, did you ask mom and dad to do any of this? Son was like, no, mom grew up with all of this so she definitely knows what I need and is choosing not to do it. Sibling pointed out he can't be mad if he doesn't ask, while also pointing out that son is 19 and that this is our house and if he's that pressed he can get his own place and do what he wants. Fact is, I don't want to. I cook and bake a lot. I like having 2 ovens. I don't want to relive the exhaustion of a kosher, semi-kosher, kitchen, though I could. Comment 1. NTA. Dietary preferences, that are not medical necessities, are just that, preferences. Whether your child is vegan in a meat-eating household, or the other way around, keeping kosher, etc., your son needs to figure it out, speak up if he needs or wants something, and work with you on how to work this. Grumping about it to himself or his siblings solves nothing. He could also speak to his rabbi about how to navigate living in a non-kosher house. Comment 2. He's 19. He needs to learn how to clearly communicate what he wants, not passive-aggressively sulk until someone notices enough to try and anticipate it for him. For me, that would be the lesson he needs to learn in this situation. Unfortunately, you weren't gifted mind-reading abilities upon becoming a mother. Comment 3. NTA. It's not your job to maintain his kashrut. Any Jew knows we gotta have workarounds to keep from going hungry. This is especially true when there are differing levels of observance. God knows I have serious theological differences with Chabad, but their attitude of being happy you're doing anything and not shaming you for what you don't do is pretty great. Don't forget to share your thoughts before going. Have a great day. Enjoy your day. Take care.